Hello, welcome to another episode of Gear Talk on Ildefonso. I'm Spencer, and today I have Brandon Burr, and we are talking about the Chompi. So Brandon, tell us first, how did you first hear about the Chompi? And show, if you can, I know the cable's really short.
Yeah.
Show us it real quick.
Chompi, I heard about on, I feel like it popped up on Instagram or something. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it popped up on Instagram. I don't remember who, like I follow a lot of like those Instagram guys that are like, you know, like have really cool looking backgrounds, and it's like a looper keyboard, or like they make ambient stuff, and like a lot of like the like tape loop cool ambient things. And I feel like one of them posted it, but anyways, it was a Kickstarter. And nice. It's this couple in Washington that took what I instantly saw as the way that I had been like creating in my phone and gave it like a hardware function. So it's just a really simple, quick sampler.
They have it listed as a chromatic sampler and tape music instrument made for sound design with a sampling engine, multi-effects, and tape style looper. So how does the hardware component play out in real time when you're writing with it or recording with it?
For me, the Chompi keyboard is like an idea machine. I've seen so many samplers out there that are like really like in a grid, and like you build loops and it works perfectly for building beats, but this doesn't play by those rules. There's no time. You just make sounds and see what happens. And one of my favorite things to do, and I was doing it on my phone for a long time, is to sample something and just let the sample be whatever it was, and that sample dictated the tempo of the song, but it also dictates like what chords can live in there. So I would just like make noise and see what chords I heard from it, but then that's also how fast the song had to be. So that's exactly what I do with this, is like there's a looper on it, but it's out of time. It's like it doesn't sync really well, but I kind of like that part of it.
Yeah, so how does the timing of it work? If you wanted to try to sync it, could you? Does it take MIDI or?
I don't even know. There's MIDI through the USB-C port is I think what they said, and then there's there's what is this, like 1/8 inch cable, like MIDI in and out, and they're always saying like they're gonna update like firmware, and it's gonna like build off, or they'll be able to build more off of that, but I haven't paid attention to any of it, to be honest. There's a Discord that I'm on where people are talking about it, and I'll glance at it here and there, but I really just love the carelessness of it, and that's my approach for it. It's been out for like 2 weeks, so
you're using it as kind of an idea machine for writing and creating almost more organic sounding sampler ideas.
The way that I've been using Chompi so far is one, to like help me inspire chord progressions that I wouldn't have found otherwise. So just take a sample and hold a bunch of notes down and see what pops out. But then on the other side is I'll record with like an acoustic guitar or a bass guitar, and I don't want to get sucked into like using a bunch of software synth. So instead of using a software synth, I'll make a sound and turn it into a synth and then play it on here. And with the effects that are in it, recording stereo out sounds really nice. It's super lush. So I like creating synths that are made from organic things first. So it's going like organic, digital, and back and forth. And then mixing that in with like a higher fidelity acoustic guitar, bass guitar, I think sounds really good.
Rad, do you want to show us like an idea sampled from something here in the studio?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of random stuff over here. There's a ukulele that looks really cool.
That's my uncle's, yeah.
This thing is sick, so let's sample that. The first thing is you put the Chompi in this little Chompi mode, is what they call it, and hold the button down, and when you hold the button down, you just make a noise. So let's see. And now let's hear what it sounds like. So then there's a couple of knobs where you can change like the tuning of it. And then there's a couple of knobs where you can change like where the sample starts and ends. So I'll get rid of the dead space in the beginning. can change when it ends.
So you're getting rid of that keyboard kind of clack.
Yeah. And then if you click on these buttons, it'll switch to like the envelope. So like, does it fade in or out? So I don't think I need to mess with this one at all. If I hold the note down, the loop will just keep going. But that I kind of like that. I like just holding like, and like, I don't know, that's a chord somewhere. Like that could be something. So what I like to do is like, I'll just hold something like this down and hit record in Logic. And then I might chop like 4 bars out of that. And that's a chord or a loop or something that I never would have like thought to play.
Yeah.
But just because it's doing it itself. There's a looper in here too. And built-in effects. The effects make it sound really cool. I'll turn this delay thing on. And then the looper, I don't know, just do the same thing, make some noise. This purple knob is cool. You can slow your loop down. I think you can still play over the top of it. It's just endless hours of fun.
And then you sampled the piano. Are you able to recall that sample? Like, is there a sample bass?
You can. Let me stop that. There is presets that you can save for sure. They have some built in, and then you can write over those or write more. There's a couple of banks of.
Yes, show us some
14
samples that are either already preloaded by Chompi or stuff that you've made.
Yeah, I haven't saved any of mine. I feel like I just love just making something new every time. But here's like the first patch that they have in there. Some synth. They give you a bunch of stuff that's like sounds like they like plugged it in direct. You can apparently hook it up with or take this SD card out or whatever's in there, and you can load samples that way by plugging it into your computer.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you can get like higher quality things. It doesn't have to be off of the built-in microphone.
Yeah.
So you can definitely do that. But
that would be cool to load like some of my drum kit samples into your Chompi and then program with that. Cause like, so could you perform the Chompi as an audio keyboard directly into say Logic? So like, could you like play along to a song as it's recording, like with a performance? Like it's not locked into a loop, or like it could be used as just an instrument going in.
That's the way that I use Chompi, is as an instrument that you're just plugging into Logic.
Nice.
It's not stuck in a grid or anything like that. So yeah, it just shows up as a normal audio track when I record it in there.
And are you able to separate out your outputs? Like, could you say if you had a kick or a kit, could you separate the kick drum from the snare so like they're going into multiple, or is it just going to come in as like one stereo audio file all the time? I guess in order to do that, would that mean that you'd have to do like MIDI or something like that, or to get multiple outputs? As
soon as you start getting into wanting to record multiple outputs, there's other tools out there that can do it. This thing is really about like being approachable. I feel like I see it on their like socials and their websites. It's really about like that entry level exploratory, trying to get people into like what you can do with sampling. So it's very intentionally simple, and the outputs are simple and the inputs are simple. But there are tools that do that kind of thing. With this, I feel like it's really perfect as like an atmosphere maker. Like one example, there's a song that I recorded, I sent you recently, that I recorded like acoustic and bass and stuff on, but then I just wanted like a nice lush like vocal pad, and this thing does that really awesome. I'll sample like just recording it out stereo, it just has this really wide sound to it, and it fit perfectly the sound I was going for.
That's sick. So for your application with your project Boosk, you're going for atmospheric sounds that you could layer on top of drums and bass and stuff. So you're kind of using it as like an auxiliary synth, essentially.
Yeah. With Boosk, I think the kind of stuff that I've listened to the most, and when I think of like pillar like albums that like shaped like what I try to make, there's a lot of like Radiohead or Air. And with those bands, it's really expensive. They had really nice gear. Everything sounded great. Air, I think, is known for using like some really awesome expensive gear. And if I'm trying to replicate that, there's a part of it needs to be organic. I can't just use plug-in software. So when I want to make like a vocal synth patch that's a pad, it's going to sound better if it's actually a voice, as opposed to like just whatever Logic vocal pad is built in there. It always sounds fake and cheap. And even though this is lo-fi, blending it with like Dan's drums that are really well recorded and a bass that's recorded really well with the preamp that sounds good, that balance like brings it all together.
Yeah, so it's a key ingredient kind of for the sonic landscape. And yeah, I could definitely see how a tool like this could make writing easier for you, especially for coming up with those extra kind of special moments, essentially. Sick. Well, thank you for bringing the Chompi. We were excited to finally get our hands on it. Like I said, I think what I'm really excited about is sending you some drum samples and just hearing what would they sound like reprocessed. So I'm excited to hear more from it and from the stuff that you write with it. So we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching, and talk to you later. Bye.